Hello and welcome to LearnToCook.com. I'm Chef Mark, a chef mentor, and today a person who will be roasting some beautiful meats for you for the holiday season. You know, this program is very exciting because we get to do items that you can do at home and wants you to feel comfortable in our community of cooks. And we want to share with you basic cooking, maybe not so basic cooking, so you can feel comfortable sharing that with others and sharing your experiences with us. We'd love to have you participate on a weekly basis. So let us be the person that you can feel comfortable with and a companion as you cook with us, and today especially, some great food. So if you want to join our chat, be sure to reduce your screen and join our chat. We're happy to ask any question you may have regarding today's session or perhaps other cooking methods you've seen that pertain to the two great meats we're doing today, which are prime ribs of beef, roast prime ribs of beef, and a baked ham. We're going to do two sides with those as well. We're going to have green beans almondine, and then some beautiful jumbo asparagus spears with red and green pepper and a little lemon butter. So two great proteins, but when you want that protein, you have that yin or yearning for some great protein, not just for holiday seasons, but year-round. Prime ribs and ham can give you that protein, the rush that you look for. And they're both very flavorful when cooked slowly. If nothing else, cook prime rib and ham in a low oven, and that's what we'll be doing today. We pre-staged some of that earlier so you wouldn't be here for 3 hours. We'd love to have you watch as long as you'd like. So we'll be doing those 4 things today. So it's lots of fun. You know, what's in it for you is the ability to recreate these at home with family and friends, and we'd like to see your pictures, and we want you to email us your experience as well so we can help you. We can be your culinary companion as you go forward and having fun cooking. Now, some dishes are simple, some are complex. I think roasting meat is kind of complex and also kind of simple at the same time. So let's see what we have today. We're going to look at prime ribs of beef first. Go to the store, they may say to you, well, prime rib of beef, we have ribs of beef, but they're not prime. A restaurant term you'll see many times in a restaurant, a steakhouse, is, I'll have the prime rib. And that means a rib cut from the ribs of beef. And the rib, of course, all the ribs of the cattle. There's 13 ribs. This entire rib roast, if you want to call it, can weigh up to 25 pounds or more. So we also call it in retail standing rib roast. So if the meat cutter says prime ribs of beef, we don't even have choice. Well, that's fine too, because this is choice. This is USDA choice rib roast. So it goes by 2 terms. Restaurant lingo, I'll have the prime rib of beef, and it's probably not prime, unless it says we use USDA prime. That would have lots of incidents of marbling. They call it very abundant marbling. This is not prime cut. This is the second grade, which is fine, USDA choice. Then there's select, and there's good, and there's cutter and canner, and then there's like dog food, and then there's the beef stews where they use those meat, and there's, I think pink slime is on the very bottom, and you've heard about that. So this is rib cut. It's a 1 bone, weighs about 4 pounds or so. It wasn't inexpensive, it was $34. So hopefully you invite the right people home over to have your rib roast. It's a standing rib roast. Many times, not many times, when we do carve it, we will carve it standing. What we like to do also on other occasions is to roast it sitting up, and we'll see how this sits. So a standing rib roast means it'll be roasted standing on the side or on the bones itself, especially if you have more of them. So this is USDA choice, less incidence of marbling. There is some marbling, and what marbling is, why that's important for you, is that marbling is intramuscular fat, meaning in between the muscle cells there's fat. So this is kind of lean. Some years back we lost prime twice, was cut off the top, and they pushed up all the other grades. So this is what it used to be because of our fear of fat. But in a good steak, like a good prime rib or rib roast, fat is a good thing. So you want to have some fat, preferably inside as opposed to outside. So I said, I'll have I was watching the butcher, said, could you give me a rib roast? He said, great, took it out, and he trimmed off the fat quickly. And this is cryovac. So a cryovac meat is a little different. They trim more of the fat cap off. Matter of fact, the fat cap has been taken off and used for ground beef. The rib fat is good, and the belly fat is also good for ground beef. Of course, ground beef is 75% chuck and 25% fat. That would be ground chuck. And many times you can get ground beef 80-20 or 90-10. But in any event, this is a decent roast. Has some intramuscular fat. It doesn't have too much sinew. But to be mindful when you see that sinew section dip further in and the eye starts to shrink and there's more fat. This was cut on the loin side as opposed to the shoulder side. I have them cut on the other end, the loin end. And the butcher's always very nice when I go in. They don't know who I am. I just ask them very politely. And I have myself a nice prime rib or rib roast to prepare. I have a room temperature because I want to be able to roast it. And it's preferred to have meat room temperature, at least a half hour. Also, you want to season this about 20 minutes before. We don't brine prime ribs of beef usually. There's no need to corn or brine that. I guess one can, but I never have. It's the fat that we buy. So prime will have more, it'll be moister. So that's why when you season it and salt it 20 minutes before, you want to roast it in a low temperature oven. Now, it's not to say if you cut a steak from that, you can't grill it. And you can cook a Spencer roll or a prime rib chop or prime rib cut steak on a grill. You just have to, that'll be on high heat. But we don't want to roast meat on very high heat, 400 degrees, even 375 or 350. Will shrink this very, very quickly. Fat will hydrolyze and run off, and you're going to have a very tight roast, a lot of gray. So we're going to roast this meat. Once we season it, 20 minutes before, we're going to roast this meat in a 275-degree oven. That's the convection oven with the fan. If you don't have one of those, then a regular conventional oven at 300 degrees Fahrenheit for 1 hour and 15 minutes. We'll go through that again. So this is room temperature. We have a few things that we'll need. We'll need some salt. I just happen to have some pink salt. Any sea salt is fine. I have fresh rosemary sprigs. I have some mustard powder. I'm going to make just a little mustard plaster with salt, mustard, and fresh chopped rosemary. Spread that on my rib roast. Now, what I did earlier, I'm going to do again is cut some cross-hatch marks into the fat. There is a lot of fat on that. It's like I said, trimmed off earlier. It'd be nice if it had more fat on this side, but the butcher shop I go to has a cryovac that already comes in plastic. So you need to go to a butcher shop that cuts the meat, I guess, from scratch, right? So I make those score marks along. I have my oven at 300 degrees for a conventional home oven, or 275 for the convection with a fan. So that's preheating. I scored the meat, I scored the fat. There's probably some fat trimming here I can take off. You want to leave some of that fat on there so that will, moisten. As it melts, it gives flavor to the meat itself. You can take just a little bit off here if you like. Fat is important in a good piece of meat. You want to have some, but not too much. So we scored that, and it's looking good. Let's take some salt now. I have about a teaspoon of salt, a teaspoon and a half of salt, about a teaspoon of mustard powder. I like to use mustard powder as opposed to using black pepper. The mustard powder makes a nice little paste, or a mustard plaster, right? And it won't burn as much as black pepper would if I black peppered the top of that. You definitely want to have salt, because salt is very important to give steak or roast its savoriness. And then once I have that mixed, I'm going to chop up my fresh rosemary. So rosemary is wonderful with a prime rib roast. You can use thyme if you like. These are the fresh herbs. you reverse pull, as you can see. These are the fresh herbs that go very good with a prime ribs of beef or a rib roast. It has a nice smell to it, the rosemary, very exotic, floral smell. You want to put the equivalent of about 2 tablespoons in there. Your 1.5 teaspoons of salt, about a teaspoon of the dry mustard paste. We're going to chop that up. I have a roasting pan ready with some foil. And let's chop this rosemary up. Now feel free to ask us questions as we go along. We'd be happy to hear from you. All right, so I chopped that rosemary, and then put it into my nice mixture. When you clean as you go, you'll find that cooking is much easier if you clean as you go. So let's mix that up again. It's a beautiful smell. The nice salt, the nice mustard, and the nice rosemary. Let's give it a shot more of water. All right.
Is the pink salt the same as sea salt?
The question was, is the pink salt same as sea salt? This is land salt as opposed to sea salt. So the land itself had, when you see colored salt, it's mostly the minerals in the dirt, actually. They're in the ground that when they process and mine the salt, it gives the salt that is color. So the soil around there was pink. It happens to be Himalayan pink salt. And so it's a land salt, mined from, from land mines, right? Salt mines.
Another question. I thought the standing rib roast had the rib bones showing.
Well, here's the standing rib roast. Here's the rib roast. The question was, I thought the standing rib roast had the rib bone showing. Well, here's the rib bone here. So there is one in there. Now you can get a 2 bone, and that'll be probably good for about 6 people. This will serve, well, if you're really hungry, I guess it'll serve 2 people. This normally will serve 4 people, giving them some thin slices. 2 slices we call English cut. Then there's the queen cut and the king cut, so that could be as thick as you like. So yes, here are the rib bones, and that's how they appear. Many times you'll see, if you order this at a steakhouse, they'll cut off the fat, and you'll have that bone visible, and they'll grill that. There'll be a prime rib, a grilled prime rib steak. So the bones are visible, but they're under the fat line right here. Also going to tie this up. That was a great question, by the way. Thank you for those 2 questions.
When you chop the rosemary, will it have more flavor?
Someone asked the question, when you chop the rosemary, will it have more flavor? It does break open the essential oils in the rosemary. It certainly smells good as it is, but when you reverse pull and chop it up, then all the essential oils are released. Same with fresh thyme. And same with fresh oregano. Yeah, you bet. So you'll want to do that for this nice paste. Chop up the rosemary. So I'm going to make this roast a little tighter. I don't want it to roast and sag off the back, so I'm going to make it nice and tight. So the slice will be more oval as opposed to a long oval, a shorter oval. So nice and tight. Keep it taut. Give yourself a little bow line, and then you can have the butcher do this too if you like. So it's a nice taut. Cut the string, and that's ready for me to roast off.
Another question, Chef. Does it make a difference if you put the mustard paste on before you tie it?
The question was, does it make a difference if you put the mustard paste on before you tie it? The reason why I put it on after, then I'll have the string with all that mustard paste on it. So I like to put the mustard paste after I tie the roast. And that way it prevents it from trying to tie something up with wet or slippery hands. So we'll put that nice rosemary paste on there, and just the smell of this one in a roast is really, really divine. See even some on the meat back here. And then since I know that I want to put a little salt. Since I like salt and fat in my cooking, I'm just going to sprinkle just a little more on the tissue of the meat, just a little bit on the sides. and pat that in. So that's ready to be roasted. So roasting pan, you put on a rack or simply right on your roasting pan like so. I put foil because I'll want to put a mirepoix, 50% onions, 25% carrots, 25% celery in a mirepoix so I can make a pan jus. We'll also do that today, a little pan jus, a little au jus, right? With juice, so make that today. So put on the foil, that way I could put my mirepoix around and roast it. So now, room temperature roast, had it sit about an hour before, so it came to room temp, it's still chill though.
Another question, Chef.
I tightened it up.
What type of roast is the one that looks like a crown with the bare bones sticking out of the top?
The question was, what kind of roast looks like a crown with the bare bones sticking out on the top? That's the crown roast of pork and or lamb. Those are nice to do. I like doing crown roast of pork for some holidays, and I also like to do the crown roast of lamb for some holidays. So what you'll do is you'll ask them to French the whole pork loin, have them French it, and it's best to have the butcher tie into a crown. And then with a crown roast of lamb, you'll need 2 lamb racks that they tie on both sides together, and then the ribs are Frenched. And when you roast them, it really has a nice presentation. So yeah, that's the crown roast of pork and the crown roast of lamb. Great questions. Thank you for those. I really appreciate it. Really, makes the time pleasurable, right? A little interaction. Our community of cooks, right? So I'm ready to roast this in the oven, 275 degree convection oven with the fan, or 300 degrees conventional oven. I'll check it in about an hour because it'll be about 110 degrees, depends on the accuracy of your oven. You want to pull it out, you want to check it after about an hour because it'll be 110 degrees. It usually takes an hour and 15, hour and 20 minutes to get this roast 125 degrees, which is medium rare. So in the oven it goes. Let's now work on the ham, but I'll take any more roast, prime rib, crown roast, like I said, questions, roasting meat. This time of year, if you live in a cold climate, it's nice, I guess, have the oven on, that nice smell. The roasted rosemary has a great smell to it. And if you're a meat lover, nothing's better than smell of that roasting fat, right? That has a nice smell to it as well. So you'll make, with the roast beef fat, we usually prime rib fat, we make Yorkshire popovers with that. So those are fun to make. We made those some months back. So now that the prime rib's in the oven, I'm going to also put my ham in the oven. And just to tell you so you know, have some water on to boil for my asparagus with red and green peppers. That will go with our ham. And we're going to serve with the prime ribs of beef. We're going to serve the green beans almondine. I'm actually going to drop some asparagus into the water. And I'm going to show you how to prepare those asparagus in short order. So I just want to get them cooked. And we're going to put them on a nice simmer. Green vegetables, of course, cooked, uncovered, simmer. Because if you boil asparagus, the fronds will come off. It's very embarrassing. I can say it has happened to me in the past, so I have to be very careful that I don't boil my asparagus. Just like broccoli, the fronds come right off. So it came to a boil. I had salt in there. It's simmering nicely. I have some ice water nearby, so I can plunge the asparagus in there. But let's do the ham now while the asparagus is cooking. I have our ham. I like to pick a picnic shoulder ham. Now, you can buy the other hams in the market, the ones that are spiral cut, and just reheat slowly in the oven. There's really no mystery about those. So this is how to cook a ham if you want to actually cook a ham. The spiral cut ham are perfect. They're sliced. Everyone loves them. They rave about them. You put them in a very low oven, the spiral cut ham. It's fully cured, so there's no worry about trichinosis. This is actually, it's smoked and cured, so it's actually edible. It's ham, right? But for the holidays, we like to heat it nice and slowly so we can slice and eat it warm. That means you want to be sure to, again, have this room temperature. It's a picnic shoulder, has more fat, but boy, does it have more flavor. So now you're going to say, well, he loves fat. Well, in fact, I love it to the point where that I enjoy it a lot, but I don't have so much that, I have a fat intake issue. So we're not purporting that you eat a lot of fat and salt, but that you realize in proportion and common sense, you need both in cooking to make cooking taste good. So they look nice, my asparagus. So this ham, picnic shoulder, takes just a little work. It actually happens to sit up by itself, which is interesting because that's what we want, because we'll want to carve it. But should it not sit up by itself, you want to cut off some of the bottom so that it'll be secure, because we're going to decorate this very nicely once it's done. So carving this ham requires, as you see at a buffet, they use the picnic shoulder. This is where the hock used to be. Ham hock is here. The feet are there, pork feet, pork hock. This is like the arm bone and the shoulder. And that's the shoulder blade, so it fits on this part of the pig's anatomy. I like it because, unlike the spiral slice ham, well, there's fat there, but it's this kind of fat, the thin fat. I like the skin on there because I'm going to score that. Once I have it sitting up so that I can carve it, I'm going to score it and roast it off, again, in a slow oven. For this kind of your home oven, if you have it your regular conventional oven, you put it at 250 degrees, and that was about a 2-hour process until the internal temperature was 145 at least. That's the food safety temperature. Food safety danger zone, 41, 145. So you want to cook at least 145. It's fully cooked already. So I cut off the bottom.
Question, is the ham smoked?
So yeah, this is a fully smoked and cured ham. It's actually ready to eat. You can slice it up for a ham sandwich. The spiral ham tends to be a little dry because it's, worry about fat, and it can dry quickly, and it's nice and lean, but it's a great product. Nothing wrong with it. It's easier than taking a picnic shoulder and having to go through all this great work, but it's a beautiful product. And it's something a little different than the spiral ham that everyone else has, right? So picnic shoulder, fully smoked, fully cooked, kind of looks like bacon, right? So it's fully done already. Cut off some of the bottom, so it'll sit after I roast it. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to take, I can use a paring knife if you want, or a boning knife. I'm just going to cut around where the hock was. I'm going to cut around because, there's a lot of salt in these hams. I'm taking my paring knife and just loosening some of that meat around the arm bone, which that is. And why am I doing that? Because I'm going to soak this ham overnight. I didn't tell you that. Another step. Well, you want spectacular ham, nice and moist. And our team can tell you, here we did it last week for the pre-recorded session. And that was really moist, wasn't it, Matt? Yeah, he said yes, it was. You can't hear him, but he did say yes, it was. I'm going to go over here and check my asparagus. You want to take a peek and see where we're at. So asparagus is for the ham. It's in simmering water. I've tied them up, and I'll show you how to tie up the asparagus. Let's check and see how the asparagus are. Let's take one out and take a look. Let's pierce it. Nice and tender. See, that's pierced all the way through. Those are done. We don't cover asparagus. We make sure that the asparagus cooked, simmered. I think that was probably about 7 or 8 minutes in simmering water. Right into an ice bath. See that? And turn that water off. I did. Right into an ice bath. That tends to stop some of the heat from penetrating into the center. So submerge those with ice water. Don't soak vegetables in ice water. Just put them in the ice water so that they'll stop cooking and preserve that green color. Same with green beans. I cooked some green beans earlier. I blanched them. They're al dente, which means there's a firm core, al dente, because I'm going to saute them when the guests come just before. So same with the asparagus. Nice and firm, ice water. Not boiled, because if I boil that, all those fronds would have fallen off. So simmer is best. You can boil green beans because they're tough. But for asparagus and other delicate vegetables, simmer is best, ice water. Let them just chill for a few minutes, and we'll take them out. So back to the ham. So we have our primer in the oven that's doing well. We cut off some of this section of the ham because I want to take my boning knife And I'm just cutting around, loosening around where that arm bone is. As far down as the knife can go. Because what that does is, that'll release a lot of the salt, because we're going to soak this overnight in cold water, because many times people say, oh, that ham, it was good, but it's so salty. Because, well, they do salt cure. So the soaking overnight, the cold water actually draws up a lot of the salt. So the ham will be flavorful, ham-like, but not so salty. You go, oh, that was a salty ham. Because if you bake a whole ham like that unsoaked, you'll find it to be pretty salty. But the spiral ham, of course, well, that's a little easier, right? But still, that can be salty. So there's also the shoulder blade, part of the shoulder blade here. It's right here. See that? Small section, same idea. Just take your knife, paring knife, and find out where it is. Just cut around it as deep as you can. Follow the bone. All this, not all, but a lot of the salt will come out because they use sodium nitrate right to cure ham. And you want as much of that to go into the water. And you'll see that in the water the next to how much stuff is in the water. It's not a bad thing. I'm just saying that avoiding a salty ham, you'll want to do that. Loosen around the arm bone and that shoulder bone. We'll soak it overnight in cold water. That's the one we have in the oven. We soaked it overnight in cold water. So having said that and done that, let's score the top of the ham in a crisscross fashion. So it's a matter of, there's a big slash mark down my hand. Look at that, who did that? So sharp knife, so if that isn't sharp, maybe you have a carving knife that's sharp. Well, that's good. Nice and sharp. Can you see that? All the way across, just large ones are fine. You know, this is kind of ham they had, as grandma or great aunt used to do, or maybe mom some years back did, before they had all the convenience products. It sure looks nice and kind of unique, and creates a nice tradition for you and for your family. You can talk about the cured ham that you baked, as opposed to listening to everyone rave about how wonderful this spiral ham is. I should get off that spiral ham kick, right? For some reason, I'm on the spiral ham kick. So there's those cross-hatch marks, right, on diagonal. And, you know, a lot of countries love that fat. Of course, that's known, if you take this fat off and fry it, right? That's chicharrone. And also it's cracklings. So very prized. Some people just cut that off and fry it. Or roast in the oven.
Are you cutting just through the skin or deep into the fat layer?
So the question was, how far did I cut in? I cut into, looks like about 1/4 inch or so, almost down to the tissue. So it's right into the fat. It's right through the skin. See that? And down, almost visible to the meat. And in some cases, the tissue or the meat is visible. So now this is ready. Remember, I soaked it. The next day, I scored it. All right, so now that I scored it, this goes into the oven. It can go on a rack or it can sit on its side. What temperature? 250 degrees Fahrenheit for a convection oven with the fan, or 225 degrees, a conventional oven. You want to check the temperature in about a 2-hour period. You want the internal temperature to be at least 145, right, for food safety's sake. But being cured and smoked, it's more plattability than anything else. You can bring it up to 165, but 145, 150 is fine. Keeps warm very well, wrap it in foil. And check the temp. Pocket thermometer is very handy to have, right? I have one of those, I use those regularly. So there's your ham, that's gonna go into the oven now. So we have our prime rib into the oven, have our ham in the oven. So now, while those are roasting, we need to have some side dishes, right? So let's see what we have. We cooked off asparagus. Let's look at the asparagus and how we process that. And we're going to be cooking our asparagus in boiling water. I'm going to sanitize my cutting surface with a sanitary quaternary ammonia sanitizer. Quaternary ammonia sanitizer. You can also use a little vinegar, straight vinegar, perfect for sanitizing surfaces. Let's look at the asparagus. A few things about asparagus. When you buy them, you should see this on the bottom. It's white or light colored. As they age or get older, these will be really dark. So I look for ones on the bottom that are a recent harvest. See that? So that's a good thing. I buy jumbo asparagus because if I buy the penciled-in asparagus, not much flavor. These have great taste. And of course, the white asparagus just means that they cover this asparagus when it's young in dirt. And it grows in dirt, and the chlorophyll doesn't develop through sunlight. So to get a white asparagus. You take the dirt off, they, of course, see the sunlight and become green. So it's not true that they're tougher than small asparagus. They're actually a little more forgiving when you cook them. Many folks say, well, I just take off the little tines here. Many chefs say, well, just remove the tines if you want, which I'm doing. And if you see that the stalk is really, really tough, which it's not. It's not woody at all, so there's no need to peel them. Once they get older, or storage asparagus, the skin is very, very thin. See that? How thin that is? I don't need to peel it. But I'll just show you in case you want to peel. If you peel it down, because you want to peel it, just be mindful that you want to peel from the top down. That it'll cook faster, so be careful. These get soft really quickly. And then what you do is peel it down towards the end of the stalk, and there's a woody part. We're going to save this woody part. The woody part, it'll a natural break. That's the woody part that you don't want to eat. That you keep, makes a nice flour. It doesn't actually. It's fine for to keep these to cook them separately and puree them for asparagus soup. That's what we do with these. Same with the peelings. So that's a peeled, and you broke it at the natural woody part of the asparagus. Or other chefs will, or culinarians, again, just peel it down, remove the tines or peel, line up the top of the asparagus so that they match up, and then cut them so they're evenly. All right, so they will match up evenly on the plate. So we remove two of the woody stalks. That one I cut off earlier, as you can see. That's how you select good asparagus. Also, when you're shopping, you want to be sure that the asparagus doesn't have a slimy top part. That means this section where the fronds are, the fronds shouldn't be damaged or slimy. These are beautiful asparagus. And it's a great vegetable. They're nice to chew. You can grill them on the grill, as I do many times when I grill the large ones. You can marinate them if you want before grilling. Just be careful, a flare up on your grill. Oh, but we have to tie them up. That's the next thing we have to do. So I cooked those in the simmering water, as you saw, salted water. I had about a half a gallon of water, about a tablespoon of iodized salt. I'll use the table salt for boiling. I don't use table salt for cooking because it has a number of chemicals in it and takes very metallic. So table salt is fine for boiling water. Other than that, I'll use the sea salt or land salt because it's a little more flavor. And just one ingredient, salt. Now, cooking asparagus, you can drop them in boiling water. Then the problem is, well, they're bouncing around in there. It's hard to retrieve them out of the water. You don't want to dump your asparagus into a strainer or a colander, right? So you'll want to tie them up. So you'll need some string. Kind of twine will do. Just gather them up. And just, tie them to a little parcel. I reverse tie, swing them over on the other side. Just swing them over. Nice and tight. Keep it taut. Double under. Nice and tight because it loosens under boiling water, right? So 1 and 2. And then you can use the string to retrieve them out of the boiling water, as you saw earlier. So they've been in ice water. We want to take them out. They've been in ice water. We want to take them out. So nice and green. It almost looks like it did when I first put it in, even greener. So those will drain, and those then we reheat in a casserole dish, so they'll be nice and hot. So what I'm going to do is, when they drain of the water, I'm going to put them in a small casserole dish, and I'm going to place them into the oven. Let's now go to let's go see what the ham is doing. Let's do that. And then we'll do the green beans amandine. So here's my ham. As you can see, the score marks are evident. Here's the pan I had it in. It can sit up, I can carve it now. But we want to put it, you can see the nice little ridges. It's loosened away from the meat. Some fat has come out, but we kind of want to, spiff it up for the holiday. So I have the oven on 375. We're going to want to pack some brown sugar in there, right? So we crush some brown sugar. And we also have pineapple chunks with cherry on a skewer. We're going to want this to heat up and glaze very nicely. Well, that set out a long time, that brown sugar, I guess. Set out too long. Have to have some handy. So the brown sugar, we'll want to sprinkle over. Well, that's much better than the brown sugar chunks. Place it inside. Now, some people also put cloves, but what's unpleasant when you have to bite into one of those cloves, right? Those whole cloves when you're eating a slice of ham. So we'll pass on the cloves, but we will put in some pineapple chunks and some beautiful cherries, just inside for decoration. And they'll brown up nicely. And put a few reverse as well. Cherry on the top, or the pineapple on the top. Well, this is nice for a holiday. I guess it's a nice holiday special thing to do. And then we're going to put this into the oven and let that brown. Then it'll be ready to serve. You bring it to your guests. And when you carve it, then you give them a piece of pineapple and cherry as well. So let's put this back in the oven. Okay, so now we have our oven-proof dish. We're going to want to reheat our asparagus now that it's been cooked. So we've drained it, put the asparagus in our oven-proof dish, discard the string, obviously. Lay them accordingly. I'm going to put some melted butter on them and little lemon juice when they come out, so I'm going to pop in the oven so they get warm. Now let's also cook up some red and green peppers for the asparagus. Just happen to have my wok here. I kind of like using the wok, because I get some nice heat. This is a steel plate wok, so I have to watch it heats up very quickly. But I have some red and green peppers that I'm going to cut up that I had used earlier. With red and green peppers, you want to be sure you remove the ribbing, right? The white ribbing. Many times also that white pithy part. See that? The pepper has a very nice clean look to it. There's no white pith. So the ribbing and some of that pith, probably the same thing. Ribbon and pith, probably the same thing. But you can see that thin membrane, I'm slicing that out as well. And then I'm going to julienne that, right? So thin strips. and a sharp knife. Have the wok on. And keep the trimming for after. Also have some sweet peppers, yellow and orange. These are totally sweet peppers. There's no heat to them at all. We're going to stir fry that or sear that in our wok. That wok has gotten hot. Look at that. Let's lower it down a little bit. I'm going to heat up the butter in the back. And with my butter, I'm going to add a Myers lemon juice. So I add a Myers lemon, some nice juice for that. That's wonderful on asparagus. A Myers lemon, my citrus reamer. Catch the seeds, nice lemon juice in there. Discard that. Here's my wok. Have a wok ring, which one can buy. Remove the larger ring from the surface. So my broccoli is in a nice hot oven, getting warmed up very nicely. Take a look at the ham. The ham's doing good. Lower it down to 275. We're back over here. We're going to add our ingredients, which in this case are the red peppers. So we'll give it a little toss. So peppers you can cook on high heat. That's no problem. The whole thing with cooking for your family is the proper timing, right? That's the whole thing when you cook. It's the timing factor. So all that, the last few minutes, everyone wants to come to the kitchen to help you cook. At this point, it's best that they help set up the dining room, right? Well, they can help serve. That's always a good thing. So that ham's looking good. I'm going to take that ham out of the oven now. I'm going to use oven mitts. That's very helpful. For oven mitts. Bring that to here. Close the oven door. Go back over to our wok. See how that's doing. Doing fine. So that's nice and tender. Let's keep those to the side, warm a little bit. Asparagus is in the oven. Now we're ready to take our ham. That's hot. Now we're ready to carve our ham. So at this point, you can put it on the dining room table, or you certainly can present it like this on your dining room table. A nice plate. And then when you're ready to, put the nice pineapple pieces, cherry pieces on the side. People like to eat those. Also makes a nice, pretty plate, attractive plate presentation. And once it sets and you're ready to carve that, then what we'd like to do is have a nice plate handy, and then sit that up, some for garnish. Those are nice and tasty. And then it's a matter of with a fork, chef's fork, kitchen fork, holding on to that ham, and with a slicing knife. Let's see if it's sharp or not. It needs to be sharpened a little bit, so run that knife down either side, 20-degree angle, right? Especially the tip. Or if that looks a little scary, you can also put the steel on the cutting board and do it like this. So that's the arm bone. So we're going to carve a section of that right off. This is the part that is on the top piece, and this piece is really nice to use for a soup, or someone says, oh, I like the end piece. Well, this is the end piece to die for, to end all, the end piece. So we carve in those end pieces, and now we start to get some of that beautiful, beautiful ham slices. And as we go further down, you also cut off some of the fat, right? Trim off that fat because it served its purpose and gave great flavor. And then you can start carving your ham, beautiful ham slices, and placing that on your plate. So this is a beautiful ham, and it's nice and moist, very flavorful. You say, "Oh, chef, there's too much fat on there." Well, you can just cut that fat right off down to the bone, but it protected the meat. Or cut that fat right off down to the tissue. It protected the meat very nicely and made it moist. So nice thin slices right there. So that's our carved ham. So maybe the head of the household will be the one to carve the ham. You'll have a nice new tradition. And then those pieces, the fat pieces, used for a beautiful split pea soup. So I'm going to put that aside here. Put that roast aside. Straighten up a little bit, and now we're ready to bring out the asparagus and then do our green beans. So we have that simmering butter and our hot asparagus. We're going to add our nice seared peppers to that, the beautiful red and green peppers and the sweet orange and yellow peppers. And that's nice and hot. And we're going to pour that over. And there is your nice holiday ham and asparagus with some nice seasonal red and yellow peppers. Let's now look at the prime ribs of beef. That'll be next. But first, I want to heat up my skillet. You can use a skillet or wok. I'm using the wok because I want you to know that in February, I'm using a wok because I want you to know in February, we'll be having Asian cuisine classes, Chinese food particularly, the 8 great cuisines of China for 2 or 3 weeks. So I'm getting you ready to see the wok and how to use that. So prime rib has been roasted in the oven. So I have the wok on the high heat. I have a plate to serve my prime rib on. I have my carving fork. I'm going to bring up my prime rib that I had in the oven earlier, roasted for us. That has to sit for at least 25 minutes when you roast your prime rib. This is a smaller piece, not the same as the other one, obviously. So that's it for 20 minutes for it to set and for the juices to recirculate. So that we have that. The wok is hot. Earlier I cooked green beans, all right? So these are, as I said, they're somewhat al dente and crisp to the bite. The wok is getting hot. Now these steel woks, they get hot very quickly. So just a little oil. Swirl it, smoke it, add the green beans. Put it back on the heat. Let that stir up. I'm going to add some chopped garlic to that. I'm going to add a little stock, a little veg stock. So you can see how that sears, it sears very nicely. We're going to add some fresh thyme to that as well. A couple pinches of fresh thyme. A couple pinches of salt. Freshly ground black pepper. I'm going to add some slivered almonds as well. And finish off with some dried cranberries. It really smells great. The question was, do I have to use the wok? No, you can use this skillet right here. But it's for the purpose, it's my nefarious purposes. I'm promoting shamelessly our Asian cooking classes in February for the Lunar New Year. So, no, you can use this right here. See? We can switch over to that pan as well. So I have a skillet. I have a skillet right here. See? So we can do it the Western style, right? The Western way. The question was, how do you keep the roast hot if it sits up for 20 minutes? I had foil on it, and I kept it in the warming drawer. So that's getting hot. Now I'm ready to carve my Yes, I add extra virgin olive oil to the wok. That was the question. Yes, I did. So you can do it just as nice in a skillet like that. Same idea. Olive oil, the blanched green beans. Get it hot. Add the garlic after. Just be sure you don't scorch it. You don't scorch the garlic. And then the almonds, and then I add cranberry, a little stock to moisten, prevent it from scorching. Freshly ground black pepper, pinch of thyme or herb de Provence if you like, and then some salt. Well, the question was, are there any dried fruits that would go with green beans? Well, dried cranberries work very well. Also, dried apricots would be nice to add in the haricot vert, the green beans, almondine. Yeah, so that would work very well. The dried apricots. So we're going to carve our prime rib, cut off the string so no one gets that. And then let's give this a toss. Bring our serving dish down here. Turn off the fire. Oop, one fell on the floor. Well, that's all right. Someone has to clean the floor after, right? It sure smells wonderful. If I do say so myself. So now we're going to carve up the prime ribs. I have, carving knives. Some folks may have a large slicing knife. Either works fine. Just be mindful when you're carving not to cut yourself. So maybe someone wants an end piece. Say, well, Chef, I don't want to touch it. I want to use a fork. Fine. Put a fork not in the eye. Put a fork by the rib bone. You don't feel safe your hand on there. Just a nice thin end piece. Then cut. Just try to keep it flat and even. Watch where you're going, right? Hold down here. You want to cut right to the bone. See that? And then cut along here. As the first person to get a nice piece, the end cut. They have an end piece, so you have a nice medium rare, 125 degrees. Some of that fat that has great flavor, keep that separate. So that's looking beautiful. If you say there's too much fat, trim some of that fat off. Nothing wrong with that. It already gave nice flavor to the meat. Let's cut one more slice, why don't we? So thin slices are nice with this because it's nice and rich. It's nice and moist. It's nice and beautiful. And we would call this English cut, right? The thin slices of meat. So here we have a nice end piece and a nice section for you, for your prime ribs of beef. So to finish up today's class, and we'll take a few more questions while we're here. Beautiful mid, we call it medium rare, 125 degrees. Medium is pink warm center, right? Medium rare, pink cool center. Rare, red cold center. Keep that in mind. Medium well usually is gray and a hot center. You cook the meat the way you like it, and if you enjoyed any of those degrees of temperature, that's important for you to enjoy it and to prepare it the way you like it. So we have that. We have our beautiful green beans amandine with some fresh, not fresh, but dry cranberries. We did a beautiful asparagus today with seasonal asparagus with the very fine red green peppers, and our beautiful ham, roasted fresh picnic ham. So if there are any other questions, and hopefully you enjoyed our session today, we'd love to have you join us next week. We'll be doing how to cook frozen lobster tail. Of course, it'll be defrosted, so how to cook a lobster tail, and how to cook shrimp. And we'll do lobster tail, a broiled lobster tail. We'll do a sauteed lobster tail, which is nice during the holidays. And we'll do grilled shrimp and sauteed shrimp, and of course, some side dishes. So it was great having you here today. Thank you for your questions. Look forward to hearing from you. Let us know cooking questions you may have. And thanks for joining our community of cooks, and thanks for joining me. I'm Chef Mark with learntocook.com. Have a great day. Hopefully see you next week at the same time. Thank you, and bon appetit.